Chapter 1. The Ask. She knocked like a neighbor with a package. 3 quick taps, a pause, 2 more. I opened with a hand still wet from the sink and saw the woman from the stairwell. The one with the neutral coats and the hair she tucked behind her ear when she hit the elevator button. "Evan?" she said, testing the name like a password. "We've spoken, in the lobby." We had, twice. I knew her as the person who thanked everyone too softly for holding the door. Up close, she had the kind of face people describe as open, which is its own disguise. "My name is Mara," she said. A beat. "I need 5 minutes." It was late, and polite men make their worst decisions after 10. I stepped back. She came in without scanning the room, which made me scan it for her. The coffee mug, the lamp I hadn't dusted, the pile of mail that proved I lived here. "I'll be direct," she said, standing, not sitting. "Tonight you were at the Riverside Diner from 9 to 11. Counter seat second from the end. Tina refilled your coffee twice. You left cash." I was at my desk until I started, then stopped because she smiled, small and almost apologetic. "That's the problem," she said. "You weren't." "What do you want?" "For you to say I was with you. We were together. Not romantic, just together." She watched my face like a nurse measuring a symptom. "There's a situation. It will be messy for a few days. I'll handle the mess. You won't have to do anything but remember me." I laughed the way people laugh when they think they're being flattered by accident. "You chose me because I look like someone who eats at diners alone." "I chose you," she said, "because you are predictable in ways that read as safe." Is that a compliment? It's the truth. She checked the time without looking at her watch, a habit of professionals. "If anyone asks, we sat side by side. We talked about bad coffee and worse wallpaper. You left before me." "Why?" "Because a man died, and people will look for me." There are sentences that rearrange the furniture of your brain. That was one. I wanted to know everything and nothing. "Did you?" "No, and I'll prove it if you help me not be erased before I can." She slid a folded receipt across my table. Riverside Diner, 9:41 p.m. 2 coffees, 1 grilled cheese, cash. Written at the top in neat block letters, Mara and Evan. "You made this," she said. I asked the truth to dress differently. One favor, temporary. Temporary is the ugliest promise we make to ourselves. I told her yes because it sounded like a jacket I could ask for back. "Thank you," she said, and there was a relief in it that made me feel tall and necessary. "Please keep your phone on." "For what?" "So I can return what I borrowed," she said, and let herself out. I stood in the hallway until the light timed out and the building remembered it was old and tired. On my table, the receipt looked ordinary, thin, thermal, doomed to fade. I touched the ink, as if warmth could make it truer. My phone buzzed. Unknown number. A text. "Thank you. Please keep it."
Chapter 2. The Diner I Didn't Visit. The detective called at 8:12 a.m., which is when people expecting to be told no make their first attempt. Detective Anna Calder introduced herself like a person who'd had to repeat the name too often, then explained, briefly, without cruelty, that a professor from the tech college, Jonah Lang, had been found dead on a side street behind the Riverside. "Heart issue?" I tried. I thought of the man as an abstraction, a headshot in an alumni newsletter. "We're still learning," Calder said, "but his car was there and a witness put a woman in a camel coat near the alley at 10:30. We're checking comings and goings." "I was at the diner," I said. "Counter seat, second from the end." It felt like reading a line in a play where the other actor would forgive me later for being wooden. Alone? With a neighbor, I said. Mara. We were talking. Calder paused in a way that suggested she was eliminating options, not adding them. Last name? I don't know, I said. And then, because men like me always try to give something, she lives on 12, North Side, Camel Coat. Same coat? Calder asked, and here was that awful pleasure you get when your lie syncs with the world. Good. If you think of anything else, I will, I said. I would think of nothing else. I walked to the diner at lunch because sometimes the only way to stop a building from moving in your head is to stand inside it. Tina was behind the counter, tired in the holy way of people who have been useful for years. Hey, stranger, she said, though I wasn't. You were off schedule last night. I was there? You remember me being here? She squinted. You're Thursdays, she decided. But yeah, I saw you, with the Coke girl. Cute. Right, I said. I could feel the receipt in my pocket, hot like a wire. Thanks, Tina. When I stepped back onto the sidewalk, Mara leaned against the lamppost, the same neutral coat, the same unshowy face. She looked like she had been placed there by a careful production assistant. You can't keep appearing, I said, and hated the way it sounded like flirtation. Detective Calder called you. You did fine. They'll call again. Tina remembers me, I said. Yes, Mara nodded, and the camera over the register remembers you too. I wasn't here. You are now, she said. Time is a hallway. We can walk it out of order if we're polite. You're talking like a person who rewrites calendars. She looked past me, toward the alley. I don't rewrite, she said. I borrow. And the man? Was a man with friends and students and routines, she said carefully, and a son. You knew him. Everyone knew him, she said, a deflection that felt like a fact. You told me temporary. I did. She put a small envelope in my hand. Inside were 3 small receipts, gas, a bodega, late-night coffee. My name scribbled in a hand almost mine. She must have studied my pen grip, the angles. I'll return what I borrow if I can. For now, please keep it. Keep what? The alibi? The version of me that ate grilled cheese? The shape of a night that hadn't belonged to me until now? I need to go, and Evan, thank you for being ordinary. She said it like a compliment, and I took it like a diagnosis.
Chapter 3. The Ledger. The first time the system proved it was bigger than both of us happened 3 days later. I woke to a calendar invite I hadn't made. Riverside, Thursday, 9 to 11 p.m. I opened my photos and found 3 blurry shots of wallpaper in chrome that I hadn't taken. My location history drew a bright line from my apartment to the diner and back. I went. I stood outside at 9:03, hands in pockets like a man trying to look like a man in his own life. Inside, Tina smiled the way you smile at reliable furniture. You're back on schedule, she said, pouring coffee before I sat. I checked the corners for cameras and saw 2, obvious as the black flies by the river in June. I saw myself slouched on a screen above the register, the delay small enough to feel like an echo. Who owns the cameras? I asked. City program, Tina said. Break-ins. I texted Mara. My phone says I'm a diner guy. You did that? She replied with a location pin that floated like a lifeguard whistle over a warehouse district. If you want answers, come tonight, 11:30. The building was called the Ledger House, which sounded ironic until I went in and saw it wasn't. It was a shared office carved into little glass pens for people with logins. The night manager buzzed me up like we were both in on something. Mara waited in a room with a conference table clean enough to photograph. On it sat a laptop, a cheap printer, a camera on a little arm, and a stack of folders with names I didn't recognize. You run a business, I said. The relief of naming it almost made me sit. She runs a service, she said, and the distinction mattered to her enough that it should have mattered to me. Alibis. Sometimes, she said, mostly cover, for leaving, for resting, for not being found by men who shout in kitchens. You think I'm a man who shouts in kitchens? She thinks you're a man who hates shouting, which makes you useful in a specific way. And the professor? Her mouth set. Jonah Lang had a net he threw with charm, the kind that sticks. He collected interns and inventions and stories that made him bigger. Someone cut the net. I did not. Then why pick me? Because you were the right shape. Because the night would make sense if you were in it. You needed someone boring. Yes, she said simply, and honest enough to be terrible at lying unless the lie was small and kind. Kind, I repeated, tasting the word with suspicion. If this is kindness, what's cruelty? She slid a folder across. Inside, my diner receipts, a gas purchase I hadn't made, a time-stamped photo of me and a reflection on a chrome napkin holder that could have been anyone. This is maintenance, she said. An alibi needs feeding. If you starve it, it becomes obvious. You're making me into a person with patterns. I'm preserving one. You already had the shape. I wanted to argue, but all my arguments were versions of "I'm not this," spoken by a person standing exactly here. Behind her, through the glass, I saw a woman at another table speaking to a camera in a low, even voice, as if practicing the story of how she left. "You're helping people leave," she said. "I'm helping people not be followed while they learn how to. Sometimes I help them not be found by men who would rather be right than alone." She met my eyes without flinching. I help them borrow time. And when it breaks, it always breaks. The only choice is where. My phone buzzed. Unknown number. A text. Stop feeding his alibi. He doesn't deserve it. A second text followed with a photo of me at my mailbox, taken that afternoon. The frame was too neat to be luck. "Who else has my number?" I asked. Mara's calm cracked like a plate with a hairline you only see in sun. "Someone is using what I built. Someone who thinks endings are proofs." "Proofs of what?" "Control," she said. "They'll push. You need to decide who you are before they tell you." I left with the folder, because leaving with something feels like winning. Outside, a car idled across the street, lights off. I stared at the darkness where a face should be, and felt that old math start in my head. Who, why, how much damage, do I deserve it? The car pulled away without drama. A small mercy, a larger problem. Chapter 4. The False Friend. I met Jonah Lang's son at the vigil, because people like me go to vigils when we don't know what else to do. His name was Milo. He had his father's smile, and the way that sons sometimes inherit gestures like debts. "Did you know him?" I asked, because that's what you ask to make your presence legal. "I knew him," he said, not answering my question. He looked at the candles with contempt. "A lot of light for a man who took so much. You didn't like your father." He laughed in a way that landed between reckless and free. "I loved him," he said. "That's different." We stood in a shared silence that made me consider stepping away. Then he looked at me the way people look when they've decided to trust a stranger for the length of a cigarette. "You were at the diner that night. The detective said a guy saw a guy with a woman in a camel coat." "I was," I said, "because you don't contradict grieving sons in public." "The woman was Mara," he said, and I tightened somewhere private. He watched me register it. "Everyone knows everyone. She helped my girlfriend once, an ex now. Not because of Mara," he added quickly, something like fairness flickering. "Because of us. What do you want, Milo?" He shrugged. "To talk to someone who isn't selling me a moral. The cop wants my cooperation. The department wants closure. The department's enemies want scandal. I want a different father." He glanced at me. You ever want a different version of yourself?" "All the time," I said. "Then you'll get it. With enough time, everyone does." He left me to the candles and their precise small fires. When I turned to go, Detective Calder was waiting by the curb, a paper cup steaming in her hand like an alibi for being outside in January. "You're helpful to a lot of people this week," she said, not unkind. "I'm the kind of man who holds doors and tells stories about diners. Just so you know, we found a print on Lang's trunk that doesn't belong to you or the woman in the coat." "Then you're done with me." "Oh, I didn't say that," she said, and sipped coffee like a warning. "You're very tidy. Tidy men make detectives nervous." "Why?" "Because they're easy to tidy up by other people." That night, my mailbox held a single sheet of paper. No envelope, no letterhead. One sentence in sans serif type. "Keep the alibi, or I'll take yours." I knew what that meant before I pretended not to. Everyone in my life had a version of me they liked. Someone was going to steal it and spend it on something I wouldn't choose.
Chapter 5. The Subscription. Maura called it maintenance, but it behaved like a subscription. Every 2 days, a ping, a pin, a reminder. I bought coffee I didn't want and threw it away in cans without lids so the smell would be registered by someone who counted smells. I learned the waitress's dog's name and forgot it on purpose and asked again, because that's what I do. I became the man I was supposed to be, while hated by the man I thought I was. In return, my life stayed the same. I went to work. I wrote emails with hedges that made my boss feel like a king. I watered a plant that had never once considered me. The ordinary is an excellent anesthetic. It doesn't cure, it numbs. Mara and I established rules. No meetings by accident. No being seen together in places with cameras pointed down. When we spoke, it was on benches in parks where the city had decided the only thing worth filming was goose migration. "What do you get out of this besides risk?" I asked. She said, "You think I'm bad at business." I said, "I think you're worried about people you don't owe." She said, "I owe everyone," and it sounded as pathological as it was beautiful. "Because someone once owed me and paid." "Who?" "A woman on a third-floor landing with keys in her mouth because her hands were full of everything she owned. She handed me the spare and said if I made it through the week, I could keep it." She smiled. "I made it through the week." "Did she ask for it back?" "She forgot she'd given it," Mara said, and shrugged like that still killed her. Sometimes I asked about Jonah Mang, and she closed like a book dropped in water. Sometimes she asked about who I was before, and I told her I was exactly this: careful, polite, a little bored, the human version of beige paint. "Useful," she'd say. "Safe," I'd counter. "Disappearing," she'd correct. The text threats continued, changing tone like a person trying on voices. "You're not her hero. You're not even your own. Keep it, or I'll empty you." I changed nothing, because changing nothing is what you do when you're warned. I kept the alibi. I wore it like a shirt under a sweater, invisible until someone's hand rested on your back and felt the seam. Detective Calder called again. "I need to confirm your night one more time," she said. "The cameras inside give us one angle, outside another. Between them, a gap." I was there, inside. "What about outside?" she asked. "I don't smoke," I said, because that's what some men say when the truth is I didn't want anyone to see my face while I thought. "Fair enough," she said. "Just so you know, someone is using our tips line to send us videos that are almost helpful." "Almost?" She said, "They're cut to suggest, not to show. Someone has an editor's soul." "Do you like editors?" I asked. She said, "I like people who don't need them," and hung up.
Chapter 6. The Boy with the Camera. Milo found me before I looked for him. He waited by my building's door with the patience of a person who has decided to ruin his evening. "You're close to Mara," he said. "I don't think anyone is." "She's in it," he said, "deep. She thinks she's a civil engineer for people's lives. You disagree with her methods. I disagree with her results," he said. "She builds bridges to places that burn." He carried a camera, old, heavy, not discreet. He held it by the strap like a dog on a leash. "I want to show you something," he said. "Will you look?" He didn't wait for me to answer. He lifted the camera and scrolled through stills with his thumb until I saw it. Jonah Lang in the diner's reflection, the chrome bending him into a stranger. The timestamp, 10:09 p.m. A second shot, Mara at the counter, head turned toward the door. A third, me. Impossible, because I had not been there. But there I was, my shirt, my posture, the thing I do with my left hand when I hate the music. "How did you—" "He collects like my father," he said, and I wondered if he heard himself. "Only I collect truth." "Truth bends in reflections," I said, weak, because it was true. "You're being used," he said, "by her or by someone using her. I don't know which hurts less." "What do you want me to do?" "Stop," he said simply. "Stop being the person they need you to be." "That's harder than you think. It's easier than being me," he said, and walked away like he'd forgiven me. That night I waited in my kitchen with the light off. At 1:14 a.m., my phone buzzed with a new calendar event called Sleep. I laughed without sound. The knock came at 1:23. 3, pause, 2. Mara entered with a face that had been trained out of panic. "Someone is going to make a move," she said. "They will push you to confess to something you didn't do because you did several smaller things you shouldn't. That is the shape. That is how it works. What do you want me to do?" "Keep the alibi, for now." "How long is now?" "Until we catch the person lending yours to other people." I stared. "Say that again?" "Someone is using your patterns as cover. They're walking through your days like a house no one locks." "Who?" I thought I knew. I don't. I believed her. It was the way she said, "I don't," like a child admitting to breaking something valuable and sharp. "What if the person is you?" I asked, because some questions are bridges you burn just by crossing. "If it were me," she said, and here her control returned, "you would be safe." "What are we doing then?" "Watching him, the boy with the camera." "Milo? His grief looks like other things," she said, "and his father taught him budgets and leverage." "You think he's the one emptying me?" I said. "I think he knows where the open doors are," she said, "and I think he wants to find me holding a lit match." I thought of the texts, the videos Detective Calder described, the way grief chooses disguises and then forgets it's wearing them. What if you're wrong? I am willing to be. Are you?
Chapter 7. The Push. The video hit the department at noon and the internet at 3. It was 90 seconds of suggestion cut like a music video. Lang's car on the alley camera, Mara's coat turning at a corner, a man in my shirt shape appearing in the chrome napkin holder, a shot of the Riverside sign washing the sidewalk in neon red like blood no one had to mop. The title? Borrowed Time. Detective Calder called and didn't bother hiding anger. "I don't care who cut this," she said. "I care who fed it." "I didn't," I said. "You fed it by being available," she said, "and by being consistent." She sighed. "I hate consistency. Me too, I said, which made her laugh despite herself. Tell me straight, she said, and I liked that she thought I could. Did you know Lang? I knew of him, I said. I knew his son the way you know boys who break their ankles in front of your building and refuse help. Did you know Mara before the night of the diner? No, I said, not by name. Would you cover for her if she'd done it? No, I said, and heard the detectable pause before I added, unless not covering would mean worse harm. I need you to decide which story you're in, because right now you're in 3. Mara went to ground, which is romantic until you need to find someone. I checked the ledger house. Her glass pen was clean, the chair pushed in, the power strip off. The night manager shook his head with performative ignorance. I found her where people find me when I try to disappear, in plain sight. She sat on a bench outside the library, hands in her coat like she was pre-warming excuses. You can't see me, she said, eyes forward. I'm not seeing you, I said, sitting too. Good, she said, and exhaled. He sent the video. Milo? He or someone who wants to be him in public, she said. The metadata pretends to be sloppy. It isn't. What do? We flip the alibi. We use the part of you that's true. Which part? You hate being watched. You leave places by the back door. You position yourself so reflections don't catch your face. That is real. We show it. How? She handed me a phone, not mine, not hers, a third thing with no history. On it was a folder of little clips of me in places I actually had been in the last 2 weeks, moving like a man who wants to keep his edges. She said, we'll publish these. We'll look petty, but we'll look honest about it. We'll bore them into seeing. Won't that make me more available? Yes, but on our terms. I turned the phone in my hand like a tool I hadn't decided to use. And if it doesn't work? Then we confess to something true enough to puncture the story. What truth? She looked at me then, properly, and I recognized the tiredness there. That I asked for your alibi, that you gave it. That I run a service, that sometimes services draw flies. We go to Calder, and we hope that she prefers true things in the wrong order to beautiful lies that rhyme. We posted the clips. They looked like nothing. They looked like the opposite of a scandal. They looked like a person standing in line for soup. The comments were mercifully dull. Then one account, no posts, 2 followers wrote, "Return what you borrowed, or we'll take the rest." Mara squeezed her hands in her pockets as if hiding nails. Time, she said, to stop being polite.
Chapter 8. The Trap with 2 Doors. Calder received us with the relief of someone who gets to be the adult. She didn't sit behind her desk. She sat on its edge like a parent at a child's recital. I already didn't love that video, she said to begin. Now I like it less. We can help, Mara said, and it was brave because the safest word would have been sorry. Start with what this is. No slogans. I run a cover service. Legal paperwork on request, illegal on refusal, I suppose. I build calendars, receipts, footprints, mostly for women leaving, sometimes for men who need a space between who they are and who people think they are. And Lang. I was never his, she said. His son hates me because his ex thanked me in public. Your alibi, Calder asked, turning to me. I ate grilled cheese in a story, and then the story ate me. Calder smiled like she allowed herself 1 performance per day. You 2 are lucky I like sentences, she said. Who's pushing you? Milo, I said, and Mara didn't correct me. Or someone wearing his anger. Why would he do that? Because if his father was the version of himself he hates most, then stopping me is a way to stop him again. Poetry, Calder said, not impressed. Do you have anything I can bring to a judge? Mara reached into her coat and placed a small recorder on the desk. She pressed play. Milo's voice, younger than he wanted, saying, "She builds lies and calls them bridges. If I burn the bridge, the lies fall." A pause, a breath, a second voice I didn't know. What about the guy? Milo again. He chose it. He wants to be needed. The way he said needed made me hate him and love him. Where did you get this? Calder asked. Mara said, Ledger House hallway. They forget the glass is a drum. This isn't enough, but it's something. She looked at us, then at the recorder, then at the window where the city played its small, constant noise. We'll invite him. Invite him? I asked. People who publish videos want an audience, she said. We'll give him a bigger one. Evan, you'll look like yourself. You'll tell the part that hurts you. Which part is that? You like being believed, she said. You'll tell him that. He won't be able to resist correcting you. We met in a small interview room, full of bad decisions and better coffee. Milo arrived with his camera like a signature. He pointed it at the ceiling when Calder asked him to, a tiny rebellion that let him keep face. Thanks for coming, Calder said. We want to talk about the video. I want to talk about the night. So do we, Calder said. Evan? I told it. The knock, the receipt, the diner I didn't visit until I did. Mara's service without its brochures. I told the part I didn't want to say, the part where doing something kind made me feel special, which is a drug better men than me have overdosed on. You liked being necessary, he said, disgusted. So you lied for her. I told a story about coffee. You told a story about blood. He told a truth about harm, he said, which is different. He turned to her. You think you're a saint with paperwork? I think I'm a clerk with good taste, but we're not here for that. We're here because you published a cut designed to make me guilty and him complicit. Because you are. Prove it, Calder said, so gently it sounded like an offer. Not in the comments, here. He reached for his camera. Calder shook her head. Words first, then toys. And then he did it. He told his truth out loud like a man opening a window in a hot room. He took, and everyone called it mentorship. He made you love him for it. He made you need him. I wanted the person who builds needs to feel what I feel. Then aim at the right person, Calder said. Anger needs calibration. Otherwise, it's just a flood. I calibrated. I followed her. I followed him. I sent the clips because you won't move without being watched. Who else did you send them to? He hesitated. A friend. He knows the forums. He cleans them. What's his name? He shut. You're the police, he said. Find him. Calder nodded like she had expected exactly this distance. She slid a paper across the table, a printout of the burner messages to me. Did you send these? She asked. He read. His face changed twice, the way a face does when a person first plans to lie, then fears they'll be caught in a lie, then decides to look noble. No, he said. This time I believed him.
Chapter 9. The Name We Didn't Want. The friend was named Caleb Dunn. We learned it the way you learn most ugly truths now. By accident, then all at once. A city camera caught him near the riverside 3 nights earlier, watching a woman in a coat that might have been Mara's. Another placed him outside my building at 1:21 a.m. the night the calendar invited me to sleep. Caleb had built websites for men who wanted to be better at being awful. He liked systems that made harm look like a feature. I looked at the collage of his posts and felt that creeping cold of encountering a person who thinks of people as inputs. Your father liked him, Milo said, which he shouldn't have told us, which he had to tell us. He did odd jobs. They laughed the same way. Calder invited him in without the courtesy she'd given Milo. He sat with the ease of men who have never feared rooms like this. He placed his hands flat on the table like he was accepting a manicure. You moved through Mr. Gable's life, Calder said, using my last name. You used his patterns. I prefer optimized, he said. He was leaving so much on the table. Which table? Mara asked, and her voice did something to the air that made me proud of her. The table where the city keeps its attention, he said. You have to feed it. People like him are boring in a way that's brandable. Say that again, I said, because sometimes the only way to buy yourself time is to ask for the performance to repeat. You're the kind of man who can be anyone's neighbor,
he said, smiling the deliberate smile of an unhandsome man trying on charm. Which means you can be everyone's excuse. You used your alibi to cover other people, Calder said, not asking. You hid under your normal. He shrugged. I borrowed what she borrows, he said, flicking his eyes at Mara. Market forces. And Jonah Lang? Calder asked. Did you borrow anything there? Caleb's eyes sparkled the way cruel men's eyes sparkle when they think they're about to be admired. He said, I borrowed momentum. He had enemies. I gave them a parade. You cut the video, Milo said, in the corner where he wasn't supposed to be. He insisted on sitting in. Calder had allowed it because sometimes people need to see the plumbing to believe the house. Caleb tilted his head. You shot it, he said. I cleaned it. Why? Caleb smiled, deflated into something honest and worse. Because it's fun. Because making a story move is like turning a wheel and watching a river change course. Because he nodded at Milo, needed a villain, and she, Mara, makes the best one. And me? I asked. You're the bridge. Everyone loves a bridge until it collapses. Calder didn't stand. She didn't raise her voice. She just slid a printed list of IP addresses across the table the way a magician shows a volunteer that the deck is ordinary. We have your logins, the tips line, the accounts, the calendar invites, the texts. You stole a man's shape and sold it for attention. We're past fun. He looked at the paper and did the thing cowards do when their plans are named. He went very still and then very loud. You can't pin Lang on me. I wasn't there. Neither were we, Calder said mildly. We're pinning you on you. He asked for a lawyer the way you ask for the check when you want the date to end. Calder nodded. The room relaxed in that strange way rooms do when a new, slightly worse room is about to take over. On the sidewalk, Milo looked at me and then at Mara. I'm sorry, he said, not quite making eye contact with either of us. I wanted something to be him. I wanted it enough that I pushed. You helped, and you hurt. That's most days. He stared at the station doors where Caleb had disappeared. What about my father? Men die every way. Some nights they die of hearts they fed too long. Some nights someone helps. We'll keep looking. Milo nodded like a boy who had wanted a different sentence and gotten the one he deserved. Mara and I stood on the curb and watched traffic pretend to be eternal. She reached into her pocket and pulled out a simple index card with a single line on it. Return what you borrow. She tore it in half and gave me one half. You can keep that, she said. For how long? For as long as you want to remember what we did and what we didn't. Chapter 10. Keep it. I expected relief to feel like a door opening. It felt like a room with the lights turned on. Everything the same, only harder to ignore. Caleb pled to a tangle of lesser crimes because lesser crimes are cheaper and fit better on shelves. Detective Calder kept looking at the larger one, the alley, the car, the gap. It didn't close. Sometimes they don't. Sometimes the shape you're chasing is a heart stopping at a red light. Mara moved the Ledger house to a place with worse coffee and better neighbors. She made her rules less clever and more boring. She stopped using strangers' patterns and asked for volunteers instead. And when women looked at her with the eyes of people who are out of favors, she said, I'm not a miracle. I'm a clerk. I can hold the door. I wrote her a check I could afford and didn't call it a donation. We didn't see each other for a while because not seeing is the cleanest way to thank someone you shouldn't have needed. When we did, it was accidental in the way that accidents are just unadmitted plans. How's your subscription? She asked, on a bench in a park that had decided to be muddy forever. I canceled, I said. I kept the receipts because I like the way they look when the thermal fades. You kept the card? I showed her my half. She showed me hers. 2 pieces of an instruction that no longer knew what it was instructing. Do you regret it? She said, borrowing your night? Yes, and no, and yes again when I'm tired. She looked at me. Do you? Yes, and no, and yes again when I'm scared. We sat. People walked dogs who loved them without needing any story for it. Somewhere behind us, a child laughed the way children do when they don't know what laughter sounds like to people who pay mortgages. I offered. Detective Calder said something, because I am a man who gives souvenirs of conversations to people he likes. She said tidy men make detectives nervous. And what do messy men make? Excuses, which is another kind of alibi. She smiled. You're learning. I still go to the diner, sometimes, not on a schedule, not enough to make me a pattern. Tina tells me about her dog and never remembers that she told me before. The coffee is bad in the old American way that feels like a flag someone forgot to wash. Sometimes I sit at the counter, second from the end. Sometimes I take the booth near the window and watch my reflection bend in the glass until it looks like someone I might like more. Sometimes I leave by the back door, because habits are ghosts with keys. When the bill comes, I pay cash. I write my name at the top, although nobody needs it. I fold the receipt and put it in my pocket and carry it home. At night, I smooth it out on my table and watch the ink go faint at the edges. That's what truth does if you hold it wrong. It fades. If you press it down, it lasts a little longer. People still ask me to be things. A signature, a reference, an alibi. I say yes, sometimes, because kindness is a muscle you have to train on weights you can carry. I say no more than I used to, because I know what it feels like to be borrowed until you don't know who's wearing you. Mara and I text on days when the sky looks like it's remembering something. She sends me pictures of library benches and the backs of women walking away on purpose. I send her nothing, which is a gift I can finally afford. One night, late, I get a message from an unknown number I don't block on reflex. It says, "Thank you for keeping it. Please return it when you can." I type, "I don't have it anymore." Then I delete the line and write instead, "I kept what was mine. The rest is what the person who needed it." No reply. I put my phone face down and let the apartment be dark and trustworthy. The city hums like a refrigerator drawn into the set by a sound designer who knows what comfort sounds like. I think about the night that wasn't mine until it was, and the woman who borrowed it, and the boy who wanted to light everything to see what burned. I sleep. In the morning, I find a half card in my wallet and consider throwing it away. I don't. I keep it, not because I need the rule, but because it's proof of something I can't write neatly. That being believed felt nice and dangerous, and that sometimes the kindest thing you can do with an alibi is return it to the person you were before it fit. When people ask me who I was that night, I tell them the part that is easy to verify. I say I was at the Riverside Diner, second from the end. I say the coffee was bad and the wallpaper worse. I say a woman in a camel coat sat beside me and we spoke of nothing at all. I say the truth like that because sometimes the smallest inventory is the one that stays true. If they ask me whether I'd do it again, lend a jacket, then be asked to keep it, I tell them I don't lend jackets anymore. I hang them by the door and tell people where to find them. If they need one, they can take it. If they keep it, I hope it keeps them warm.